Hello YouTube. Welcome to the most difficult review that I've ever had to film for this channel, and also the most expensive item we're probably ever going to review. This is the 360Hz 1440p IPS panel Asus ROG PG27AQN. I would love to thank Asus in Australia for sending me this monitor for review. It's extremely unfortunate that I have to send this back and I don't get to keep it, because I'm going to put it right here. This is the single best gaming monitor available on the market right now. Period. Right. That's the end of the review. We're done. If that was what you came for, you can leave now, because I've told you, this is the single best gaming monitor on the market. There is no competition. I have never used a monitor this good. And I'm going to say right now, I will buy one of these later, or I'll get the 240Hz OLED when that comes out, if it somehow is better than this. So we'll have to wait for that. But as for now, thanks to Jasmin for getting this over to me. I am actually so disappointed I have to send this back, but this is it. Right, this is it. That's the end of the review. If you guys came to see, is it actually good or not? There. Single best gaming monitor available on the market, period. I'm going to make this one a bit longer. Right, I've been trying to shorten the reviews down a bit, but this one's going to be a bit longer. I've put off filming a video for this for quite a while because I haven't done a monitor review yet, and it's extremely hard for me to do a monitor review because normally people just talk about specs and this and that, and I'm not exactly the most well-versed person in terms of technical specs when it comes to monitors. I don't have the right equipment to do tests and all of that, but if you guys are curious, Optimum Tech's video on this monitor is actually really good. He gave all the specs and things that you need to know. So I watched that. I remember a few important points which aligned with what I experienced, so we'll talk about those later. So this monitor costs 1,900 Australian dollars. I don't know how much it costs in US dollars, but over here, the recommended retail price is 1,900 Australian dollars. So it's not cheap. It's probably one of the most expensive monitors on the market that's somewhat competitive for esports. Not the ones that are like 4K OLED similar to TVs for people who are playing casual games, but for a competitive designed marketed monitor, this is by far probably the most expensive thing you can find. Now, I know most of you aren't going to go buy one of these, but if you have the funds to, do get one. Having this monitor sent to me at work, I had to carry this on the bus all the way back home. Oh my god, it was heavy. I think the box is like 12 kgs or like 11 point something kgs, and that was that. So as for now, why the monitor is off, because I just wanted to show you guys one thing, right? On my previous monitor, I had the Alienware 240Hz 1080p AW2521HF. In my room at night, I like to turn off the power for all my devices because the LED lights over here and on my motherboard don't actually turn off unless I fully power down the monitors. So every night I have to physically turn the buttons off just so there's no LED lights bothering me when I go to sleep. And so now I'm used to this thing where I have to press the button on and off, right? And normally with all the monitors I've ever tried, when you press the power button, it takes a little bit of time before, you know, the logo, the branding comes on and then the monitor turns on. But look at this. How fast was that? That's the fastest response on a monitor that I've tried so far out of the gaming monitors, that it just turns on immediately. That is impressive. You guys can kind of read my little script here. This was written the first day I got this. This is literally my initial impressions. It's extremely hard for me to write anymore, and we'll just go for that. We'll just go with the flow. Talking more about this monitor, the unboxing experience was terrible. Alright, Asus, please do something about that. You make such a good monitor, but your unboxing was the most horrible monitor unboxing I've ever experienced. So I used to have the Asus ROG PG27AQN. So this was kind of their first ever 240Hz monitor, and it was a 25-inch 1080p TN panel. At the time, I was already complaining about the unboxing because I'll show you photos on the screen right now. I'll show you the photos, but I don't understand how you expect someone to pull the monitor out when it's clamped in between two pieces of polystyrene foam, and you just have to like slide the whole thing out of the monitor. Like, if you guys have ever owned the Alienware monitors, the Zowie monitors, the box unfolds, it opens up, and you can lift it off and everything. This, no, it just comes in a box, you have to pull the whole thing out, and they don't even give you a handlebar or something to help you grip the thing to try pull out. So it took me a solid 5 minutes to pull the damn thing out of the box for this monitor and the one on the screen. So I don't know why after this much time, you still haven't changed that design aspect of this monitor. Because on the back there, you guys can kind of see, that is the 25-inch 1080p 360Hz monitor, also by Asus. The unboxing experience for that one, even though they were released 2 years ago, was significantly better than this. You know, it had a handle, it had an instruction manual for you to just pull it out and everything. I'm hoping the only reason this one was so bad was because it was the sample model, not the end product, or at least that's what I like to believe because that's what it says on the box. Please make sure you change it to be something like that when you release this monitor for sale, because my god, that was the most terrible unboxing experience, right? I can't get the damn thing out of the box. That's me nitpicking, because you're like, who gives a damn about the unboxing experience? Well, when a monitor is this good, it's really hard to say anything negative about it, so I have to be super nitpicky and critical. Now, knowing Asus, obviously, they want to make the best product, and, you know, improving that aspect is something of significance to me. Because now if I ever want to transport this again, packing it up, putting it back in the box, somehow sliding it in, like, it's just a big hassle, and I can't be bothered. You know, why can't you make it simple and easy? The other thing is, on the back of the monitor, for the monitor stand, the neck part is actually attached. So if you guys have a look on the back here, I currently have a monitor arm. They usually have their little thing straight attached on the back. If you guys have ever had an ROG monitor, you'll know trying to pull that thing off and putting it onto a monitor arm is also very difficult. You have to pop off some plastic pieces before you can unscrew the whole thing and put it on. And by the way, that whole thing is really, really heavy. It's really big and heavy. So as my notes per se, general unboxing sucks. But the one really nice thing that they've done is that now on their more recent monitors, including the one at the back, is that it comes with this big black box. This is where all the cables and things come in. Now on the box, you can see all this nice ROG design and everything, and this box and everything inside of it was really premium. So these are the plastic pieces that I was talking about that I had to pop off to make sure I can put the stand on. On the inside, you get a lot of the extra stuff and a little black pamphlet, and inside it will have some promotional stuff and all of that, you know, the usual lot. And most importantly, like, cables come in these premium bags. I love these kinds of bags. It's similar to how graphics cards come as well. I'm pretty sure it's like anti-static. I don't know if this one is, but you know, this kind of stuff is now a lot more premium, and I like that. So that's it for the general unboxing. Now, obviously there'll be other reviews out there that you can go watch for a bit more detailed, because I'm kind of choked on this angle. I don't really have an opportunity to move things around and film from other POVs, so I can't show you much more than that. You just have to trust me when I say the design is very aesthetic. They got that big ROG logo down the back that looks cool. Sources, you know, trust me bro. Just in general, it's really nice, right? The screen is really nice. There's actually not much bezels on the side as well, and overall everything is super clean. The monitor stand that it came with is terrible. I'm glad to see that on the new Asus announcement for their newer monitors, they're gonna have a little thing that's like clampable. I'll put the video here so you guys can have a look. It's from their Twitter post. This one still came with the traditional ROG tripod stand. My first Asus monitor also had that tripod stand. I hate it. It's terrible. I don't know what goes on in your mind when you think, oh, we're gonna make this really, really big, long stand with super long leggings and everything. Like, do you want people to be able to put their stuff near the monitor or not, right? That thing takes up way too much space. It's extremely inefficient and just all-around bad design. Sure, it looks cool, but it's very impractical. If this is marketed towards the esports audience, I highly recommend you adjust and change how the tripod stand is designed. Good to see you guys are doing that for the newer ones, but overall, like, that's just not a good design, right? So make sure if you guys do get this monitor, please get monitor arms. Or please get monitor arms for no matter what monitor you're using, because monitor arms are life-changing. I literally play with my hands under the monitor, like directly under the monitor. My keyboard and mouse would be there. So if I had any monitor stand, it just literally becomes unplayable. So if I move the camera, you can see that. Buttons are really nice to click, as I was saying before. So on the back, on the right side, you have the buttons of the monitor. These ones over here. So as usual, there's that little joystick you can control, and they have some big, thick, textured buttons this time, and these are super nice and crispy to click. They are very responsive. So this is a big improvement over all the previous monitors I've had to use. I love how these buttons are. Makes changing anything if I ever need to very smooth to do. Most importantly, that's the power button, because I do press that multiple times every day. Ports need a bit of work. So what I mean by ports need a bit of work is that on the back of the monitor here, where the connection ports are, I'll put some photos to show you as well. When you connect anything into it, it actually forces the cable to be on an angle, because the connector is too tight and there's not enough room inside under the panel. Now, I don't know if you viewers out there agree with me or if you guys know anything, but I'm not a big fan of having tight bends in my cables. You can't really see that here because it is covered by a thing at the back. I can take off this covering panel to show you, but essentially over here, this forces all the cables to be really curved and tightened up on the top. So I'm not a big fan of that, because I think that's how you cause damage to the cables eventually, especially if you put it onto a monitor arm and move it around. It becomes a bit more likely to cause damage to it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it isn't of concern. And I guess if you guys don't really move the monitor around and it stays stable like that for a long time, then not much to worry about there. Now, moving on, as per usual, all these ROG monitors, they come with a big ASUS transformer. As you can see, there's one there and there's another one over there for the other monitor. I don't like the idea of having these big transformers. No other monitor that I've used actually came with these. They just come with a cable straight in. I don't know why the Asus ones specifically always need a big transformer, because that was the case on both my previous Asus ROG monitors, which I forgot to mention. I also had a 27-inch 1440p 165Hz. I think it was the PG27AQN. That was my previous secondary monitor, which I used. But they always come with this big transformer. I'm not a fan of it because it does take up extra desk space, and it's a bit harder to cable manage, because if I put this under my desk with the cable management, it takes up a lot of room as per usual. So I'm not a big fan of it. I don't know why they have to have this, but if possible, please somehow remove the need for big transformers. Moving on, this monitor, as I mentioned before, is extremely heavy. So even without the stand, even without everything, the screen itself is very heavy. It's significantly heavier than the monitor at the back, and when I first put this on, I had to readjust and retighten everything on my monitor arm because this monitor would just automatically fall down. It was weighted so much that the previous tensioning I had cannot hold this. I can't say if that's a good or bad thing, just do note that it is really heavy. Be careful if you guys ever get one of these during your installation, and do not drop it. It's not something that you want to be dropping, and it isn't the lightest thing, so treat it with care. The menu is super nice and responsive. Just like how the buttons were, you push the menu, you move it around, everything is super responsive, there's no delay, adjustments are super fast, and everything is really good. So that is another dub that they included into the monitor. Now, one other thing that I need to mention is that in case you did not know, on the back of the monitor, there is actually a fan. So inside here is an actual fan. So I guess the monitor gets so hot that they needed to include a fan into it. Not that the fan is loud or bothers you or anything, but just something that's cool to note. Like, there is an actual fan inside the monitor. I don't think I've seen other monitors that really do that, or maybe I'm just too boomer and out of date. An important setting to note, out of the box, by default, the monitor is turned into power saving mode. So in order to change that, you got to go to the system setup, power setting, power saving mode, all by the menu on the right here. I can't be bothered pushing the buttons to show you, but that's what you guys need to know. And you need to turn it into standard mode instead of power saving mode, so you can change all the features and do the adjustments that you need to do. If you disconnect the power or something happens to it, not saying the power button, but if you disconnect the whole power and something happens and it shuts down, the next time you reboot it, it'll go back into power saving mode. That's about the overview of the monitor. In summary, everything is actually really nice now, except the stand still sucks. They still have an even bigger transformer this time, and unboxing experience is really bad as well. But that's all the subjective parts. That's the parts you don't need to worry about that much. It's not like you're going to keep boxing and unboxing this monitor, so that's all okay. If you put some monitor arms on it, it's all okay as well. So the most important thing is the monitor itself and how well it performs in games. I think the first thing that we all need to discuss is 360 Hz worth it? Is 360 Hz noticeable? Is there a difference? Does it make you play better? Well, you know, if you read what I wrote on the screen here, it's kind of obvious. 360 Hz, to me, was definitely noticeable, but it wasn't as significant. So we always say, oh, 60 to 144 is a big jump. 144 to 240 isn't a big jump. Well, now 240 to 360 is an even smaller jump. That matches my experience. That also matches the math and statistics behind it. But even though it's diminishing returns, it's still very, very nice to look at, and it just makes everything feel so much smoother. Whether that's important to you is completely subjective. Maybe you don't care, or maybe you do. Now, I'm not going to say everyone's going to notice it, because some people already claim that they can't tell the difference between 144 and 240, so I think they're either blind or they're just, you know, different. Right, we're all different. Our eyes are all very different. To me, it was significantly noticeable. My vision is excellent, whether you believe that or not. It does not make you play games any better. So that's one thing I do need to say. 360 Hz has definitely not made me say, oh wow, I hit shots that I never would have hit before. But it's just nice. We like nice things out here. People all love nice things. Why do we buy all of this stuff? Why do people buy luxury cars when you can drive a cheap 1996 Toyota Corolla and still go the distance? Because we like nice things. And that's what this is. 360 Hz isn't going to make you hit any more shots than 240 was going to, but it's still very, very nice and smooth, and it'll improve your overall experience. And if having that placebo, having that experience will make you hit more shots, then it's all worth it. Smoothness is nuts if your eyes are good enough to notice it. Going back to 240 is where it's more noticeable. Similar to how people say they get used to something, then they go down, is more noticeable than when they first went up. So the same applies in this case. So the next thing I want to talk about is responsiveness of the monitor. So I didn't actually put this in here, it just came to me now. I don't know what Asus did here, but this monitor is the single most responsive monitor I've ever tried. I don't think it's just the 360Hz reason, it also has to do with this IPS panel somehow being the fastest IPS panel out on the market, only beaten by the current 360Hz Zowie by a tiny bit, and that's a TN. So if you want more info on that, Optimum Tech's video completely describes everything, gives you the data. Somehow Asus has made a 1440p 360Hz IPS panel that is also the fastest IPS panel on the market. So that's why it's just nuts. So I think the responsiveness is more than just because it's 360Hz, but also has to do with that extra response time. I'm not a person that's gonna say, oh, 1 ms is going to make all the difference or whatever, right? That's not the case, but it just feels nice. The other question you might have is, well, do you even get 360Hz? Well, I can tell you right now, when I knew that this monitor was on the way, I was worried, ooh, can I get 360Hz? I got the guy, Lewis Merks, to come and do a PC optimization for me. If you guys haven't already, make sure you do that, because I got my FPS boost even under load. So for my PC, I didn't get the biggest jump. The jump was more significant when it came under load. So for some people who have worse PCs, you'll get a significant performance increase, and also the response time and input lag on my computer just dropped so hard. So completely worth it. If you haven't gotten a PC optimization, make sure you go get one. Shout out Lewis Merks. And I got all of that done just so I can make sure I can run this monitor. I was running more than 360Hz even when streaming. There's no problem there. And I can tell you that 360Hz is definitely worth it. If you can see it, make sure you get one. They're also being replaced soon by the 540s. With that being said, if you are curious for 360Hz, you could try get the monitor I had at the back, so get the 1080p 25-inch 360Hz ones. That exact model is currently on sale at PC K-Scare until they run out of stock, because it's not being restocked in Australia since the 540 is coming out, and that's replacing that. And I think similar situations will occur for all the other brands soon as well when 540 becomes the new mainstream. This, however, should still be readily available, especially considering it's not even out available in Australia yet. So another cool feature of this monitor is that it has a 25-inch mode. So what it does is it shuts down sections on the sides of the monitor and shrinks it all down to become a 25-inch. So for those of you that are like, oh, but if I play competitive tournaments, I go to LANs, we're all using 25, we're not using 27s, well, you could just buy this and switch it to that mode when you need it. One thing I did notice though is that colors do worsen a little bit, everything becomes a bit more pixelated and unclear, the resolution is kind of weird, even though it is 1920 x 1080p. I tried playing though, more than playable, right? It looked weird, everything looked weird, but I played just fine as an esports standard, so I think that 25-inch mode works, gets the job done. Not ideal, but it works. You guys might need to do a bit of software setting adjustment because I couldn't get it to work for Valorant unless it was in windowed full screen. I do think maybe I'm doing something wrong. If you guys can work around that, make sure you work around that. But that's just a cool feature that this thing has. I don't know if any other monitor has such a feature, but this is the all-in-one experience you need. Now, with that being said, I have been playing this in 1440p 360Hz the whole time I've had this, aside from when I was testing for this feature, because 1440p is just it now. So I am actually re-recording this part of the video, just because I decided I will show you what the 25-inch mode looks like. So as you can see here, on the sides of the monitor, they've actually turned off part of it, and therefore it shrinks down to what a 25-inch would be. And obviously the only way you get this is by changing the in-game setting to become 25-inch, but just look at it, it's perfectly fine, perfectly playable. So like I did mention before, slightly pixelated, colors a little bit off. I don't know what's going on, but I think this is perfectly fine. Like, it's a great 25-inch mode. If you are after that competitive training, you can go for this. Like, if you buy this monitor, you're a pro gamer as well, you know, normally you play on your 1440p, and then say you have a LAN tournament coming up, you know you're gonna have to use 25-inch 1080p, then just a month before you gotta go switch to this and play for a month on this, and you'll be fine. Like, there's no difference. I still think this is the single last gaming monitor you'll ever need to buy. So if you guys are always in the monitor hunt, you've also upgraded, and this time you're like, you know what, I'm gonna splurge, I'm gonna buy the best monitor I can, this is it, and this is the last one you'll need. So another thing that I kind of experienced that I will put on the screen for you guys as well is that there's a little bit of a change in coloring based on where my mouse movement was. So I don't know what's actually going on, but I think you guys can see that in the video. As I move the mouse around, parts of the screen just became brighter and slightly darker or something. Maybe it has to do with some setting on the monitor that I am unaware of and not sure what it is. Maybe Asus can give an explanation, or someone else can tell you guys what's going on. There's probably threads out there for people that own this monitor, but that's just something I experienced. Makes no difference whatsoever when playing games. I've never noticed it. The only times I ever noticed that was when I was in a fully dark room with the black screen and the monitor is the only source of light in the room, essentially. Just something to be aware of. If you guys get that same issue, don't be scared. It's not something wrong with the monitor. I think that's just something how it is. It's probably a setting problem. There should be a fix for it. So we'll talk about 1440p. If you have never looked at a 1440p monitor, you've only looked at 1080, and you're like, oh, 1080p monitors are the only esports standard for 25-inch. Well, you're wrong. So I used to be of similar mindset. It wasn't me saying 1440p is bad for games. It's more so a lot of people have computers that can't run 1440p up to the refresh rate. The old 1440p monitors weren't as fast, so they did have higher input latency and all of that. And also, I regularly played at LANs, which we all use 25 inches for, so that's why I had to try make myself play 25 inch. But this monitor changes everything, because it's faster than the 1080ps. It's also 1440p, and it's got 360Hz. So it has every single feature, but better. This has become a far better experience, even when I'm playing ranked and competitive tournaments, than me using the 25 inch. There's just no reason not to buy this and use this, unless you are actually saying, I have to play 25 inch just so I can prepare for LAN. That is an extremely, extremely small, minor population. You guys will know, are you a pro player going to LANs? Because I think most of us are not. Even if you are, you could just shrink this down, because majority of the time you spend at home is still going to be on your own setup. So wouldn't you just want to make that the optimal experience? So the next thing is, there is Overdrive feature. I tried all of them, right? Extreme and Esports had a very tiny variation. I think Esports felt a bit more smoother, and the Extreme might be slightly better competitively. The Extreme did have superior clarity. Might be placebo, but you know, I can't really tell the difference. It wasn't that significant, so I just left it on Esports. If you do go according to Optimum Tech's video, he says leave it on normal mode because that's how you reduce the actual smearing and the ghosting. Make sure you turn dark boost off because that really messes with the monitor. I hated it. The G-Sync Esports default setting that they have presets for the monitor. I did turn on the G-Sync Esports, which I found to look the best. But that automatically turned on dark boost, so you have to turn that off. So this became my preferred viewing. Make sure you guys mess it around with it and you can try all of that stuff yourself. So personally, I did say 100 brightness and 70 contrast, dark boost off. Also, there is a variable backlight feature. Now, I couldn't really tell you what that does too much. Difference between everything was barely noticeable, so I just left it on 2. There's heaps and heaps of features of this monitor, which I do not know how to test all of them. I can only say most of the features didn't really make a difference to me. So it was more so 1440p, 360Hz, and just the fast monitor screen. That's pretty much the experience for 98% of us because we don't really care about other things. Whatever they did to colors on this monitor is just also impressive, because straight out of the box, this already had the best colors I've seen on any esports gaming monitor. Right, I've seen a lot from many brands. You know, I played with Alienware, I've had Zowie, I've had previous Asus. I went to LANs and we've used AOC, we've used everything, right? I think the only thing I really haven't tried is Acer Predators, but other than that, I've gone through pretty much everything. And this just had the best colors. I didn't even need to change anything. Now, according to Optimum Tech's video, out of the box, the color accuracy is also insane compared to whatever those standards they use to measure are. I guess that aligns with my experience because I just looked at it, I'm like, I don't know anything about those specifications, but I just looked at the monitor and it just looks great. That is also a big dub. Please keep working this kind of magic, Asus, on all your future products. This is the kind of things you guys need to be doing. I think I can pretty much end it here. I've said enough. All you guys got to understand is 1440p plus 360Hz is just such a good gaming experience, and the combination of all of that is definitely making me play better. Not necessarily just because 360Hz, not necessarily just because 1440p, but the combination of the 360Hz and the 1440p just make this whole experience the best I've ever had. For the quick comparisons, using a TN panel is copium. Using a TN panel is copium. And if you guys are listening, using a TN panel is copium. Stop using TN panels, right? If you're still using TN panels, you are inhaling an insane amount of copium. As unfortunate as it is, Zowie is not the play anymore. Yes, the new XL2566K is technically the fastest monitor on the market. But is 0.1, 0.2 ms really going to make the difference for you and your gameplay? No. Your internet, your ping spiking for 10 ms, your computer input lag, like all of that is gonna outweigh that 0.1 ms difference between that panel's speed and this panel's speed. So if you're saying you're buying the Zowie because I need to be competitive, you are just inhaling copium, and I can't express that enough, right? It's 2023 now. Why are you using a TN panel? Stop. An IPS panel looks better, coloring better, better viewing angles, and just everything about it is going to improve your all-round experience. And now, that all-round benefited experience is going to help you in games, not that 0.1 ms extra response time. So please stop. Zowie's fallen behind. I loved their products in the past, but they've really just fallen behind. Same thing with the mouse they're releasing. They're releasing a mouse that is 20 to 30 grams heavier than most mice on the market now. It's using an older sensor that's also been outdated. What are you doing, Zowie? I really want Zowie to pick it up because their shape is excellent for their mice and everything else and whatever, right? The build quality is excellent. Like, Zowie is a good brand. But whatever these products they've been putting out now are outdated by like 2-3 years. So please, Zowie, do something better. You guys should know better than us out here as users. Switch to IPS. Don't buy TN panel. This thing destroys the Zowie, even for competitive esports players. And if you are saying, oh, I'm an aspiring pro, I'm going to buy the XL2566K instead of this, you are copium. Now, obviously, that is cheaper. So with that being said, not everyone can afford this. Maybe they can afford that one, they can't afford this. But if you can afford that one and can't afford this, just buy either IPS 360Hz monitors, because that MS difference is really not worth it. Why would you spend the most amount of money to buy a TN panel? The Zowie TN panel 360Hz monitor is the most expensive 1080p 360 monitor, at least locally here. So all the ones by other brands are cheaper. So instead of that, just buy something like the one I have them back. It's really not worth it anymore. So the only exception to that is obviously a 540Hz TN panel. That monitor has no choice because it's trying to push for the fastest refresh rate, and TN technology is definitely still the fastest. And TN panel is definitely still what they use to make the faster monitors, excluding the OLED options. So we'll have to see, is 540Hz TN really going to be a competitive game changer? Because me seeing 240 to 360 and the difference between that makes me really think 540Hz probably isn't going to be that much different. But hey, until that comes out, we don't know yet. I highly doubt that the 540Hz is going to be that big of a game changer, and I still think the 360Hz is probably better, or even a 240 OLED. So the only other comparison I have for this monitor that makes me think is proper competition is going to be the OLEDs that are coming out. So when those come out, hopefully I can get one over as well to make a comparison, because 240Hz is more than enough for competition and playability. 360Hz was nice, but 240 was enough. So maybe the marketed instant 0.03 ms response time and OLED's superior coloring is going to make that a better choice than the 360 IPS. This is still in that 1 point something ms range. This is 0.03. It's like 30-40 times faster, right? That's not the same magnitude. Now, whether or not that difference is noticeable to the human and human reaction times is something that we'll have to figure out later. This is the only thing that I think might be a competition. I think I've used 1080p's as my main monitor for my entire life, and this is the first time I've ever had a 1440p monitor up to standard of competitive gaming for me to use, because the previous ones, even if I had 1440p, were not competitive enough. But this does that, and this does better than the 1080p's this time, so there's just no reason for me to keep using the 1080p's. I will buy one of these, or the OLED, whichever one is better. This down here is the most important things you guys have to take away from this monitor. 1440p is great. If you haven't had one before, you are missing out. Right, buy it as a second monitor, buy a 1440p monitor as your secondary monitor even, and play games using your 25-inch 1080, do everything else on a 1440p, your life is going to be great. 360Hz is great, provided that you can see the difference. Now, it's actually better if you can't tell the difference, because you can save yourself money. Don't buy 360Hz. If you can't tell the difference, don't buy it. Save money. And lastly, 360Hz, 1440p is nuts. Thank you guys for watching. I wish you all the best that you can acquire one of these for yourself, because this, as of this moment that I'm making this video, is the single best gaming monitor on the market, no doubt in my mind, no competition, no questions asked.